Hello and welcome to the program. Live from Seoul, I'm Lee Ji-yoon. North Korea launched a military exercise to counter U.S. hostilities and to protest South Korean activists' latest anti-Pyongyang leaflet campaign. The state-run Korean Central News Agency said Tuesday that its leader, Kim Jong-un, conducted his frontline troops during the winter drills, saying that a powerful offensive means a rock-firm defense. The agency didn't say, though, where or when the drills were held. In a separate report, it condemned South Korean activists for their latest leaflet launches, while also claiming that the U.S. wanted to topple the regime. By that, the North is talking about U.S. President Barack Obama's remark last week on how the spread of the internet will eventually lead to North Korea's collapse. North Korea has come up with a new regulation to detain South Korean businessmen at the joint Kaesong industrial complex if they're found to be breaking the contract. Seoul's Unification Ministry said Monday that it told North Korea in verbal and written messages that it would not accept the new bylaws. This comes after Pyongyang notified Seoul of the changes back in September. The ministry says the North has no legal basis to detain South Korean businessmen in the complex and that the highest level of punishment would be to have them sent back to South Korea. North Korea has not yet to respond to Seoul's latest comments. Many financial experts see great potential when thinking about investing in North Korea once the two Koreas are united. And we got a chance to meet with the chairman of Rogers Holdings, Jim Rogers, to hear what he thinks about investing in North Korea after reunification. With more, here's our Kwon So-ah.
Reunification of the two Koreas would mean a lot for the people of South and North Korea, but for foreigners, the thought of a unified Korea means money, at least for investors. Financial experts from around the world see tremendous opportunities for investing in the northern part of the peninsula once unification is achieved. Jim Rogers, the chairman of Rogers Holdings, a legendary investor with a minimum of $300 million in assets, voiced his willingness to invest all of his assets into North Korea if the two Koreas are unified.
You're going to have a country with 75 million people right on the Chinese border, vast natural resources in the north, huge amounts of cheap, disciplined labor in the north. In the south, you have lots of capital, lots of brains, lots of management ability. It's going to be unbelievably exciting. How big will the economy be? I have no idea, but it's going to be a lot bigger than the combined economy is now.
While China is said to be very interested in investing in the North, Rogers says Japan is not fond of what's expected to come up, as they know they cannot compete with a united Korea. So what are foreign investors most interested in?
They've just built 2 new docks in Rasun. If you look at a map, the Rasun is the northernmost ice-free port in Asia. So you put goods into the port, put them on the train, and Russia has just rebuilt the railroad into Rasun, so that's going to be one good. They want it to be, and it will be, a transportation hub going forward. But they've got huge minerals. In 1972, North Korea was richer than South Korea. It was vast natural resources. They still have them. They've been ruined by the communists. So you go there, open yourself a mine. Silver, coal, iron ore, there are plenty of things you can do there.
The only item the American businessman has purchased so far is North Korean coins due to the many sanctions imposed on the North by the U.S. But Rogers has hope for future investments after meeting with people in the North Korean regime. Experts believe that a deeper understanding of North Korea's current economy and the changes within can vastly improve inter-Korean relations, which could ultimately lead to a unification bonanza on the peninsula. Kwon So-ah, ARIRANG News.
Meanwhile, Seoul will consider the idea of establishing an inter-Korean broadcast exchange support center in preparation for reunification of the two Koreas. In his yearly policy briefings to reporters, the chair of the Korea Communications Commission said the telecom regulator is devising a long-term plan to rev up broadcast exchanges with Pyongyang, citing the way such interactions contributed to speeding up the reunification of Germany. The KCC chair added the attempt could begin with small steps, like personal or academic exchanges in a third country. The Commission also vowed support for exporting broadcast content, making use of recently agreed free trade agreements. The KCC targeted ASEAN and China in particular on finalizing terms for co-producing content with its Chinese counterpart. President Park Geun-hye continued her creative economy drive with a visit to Korea's southwestern city of Gwangju on Tuesday to mark the opening of an innovation center there. Speaking in Gwangju, President Park said the new center will become a base for the region's auto-related industries to further innovate and expand globally. She also hoped for the city to become a hub for hydrogen vehicles. The Gwangju Center is one of 17 centers the government has pledged to establish to collaborate with conglomerates in helping startups realize their business ideas and local small and mid-sized firms build competitiveness in the global market. In related news, the government is going to pour hundreds of millions of dollars into boosting creative industries in Korea's provincial areas this year. In its first Regional Economic Committee meeting of 2015, the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy said it will inject some $549 million into facilitating local industries and innovative sectors. This follows a midterm development plan established in September last year that designated 14 provinces and cities as hubs for different industry sectors in an effort to enhance synergy. A handful of creative economy centers will also be launched nationwide in the first half of this year. Consumer sentiment in Korea this month rebounded for the first time in 4 months. It might sound like positive news, but actually, the low index indicates that the improvement is not strong enough to suggest a sluggish domestic economy is quite out of the woods yet. Our Hwang Ji explains.
Consumer sentiment in Korea improved for the first time in 4 months in January. The Bank of Korea says its consumer sentiment index came in at 102 this month, up a single point from a month earlier. The figure, however, is lower than the level posted last May when consumer confidence was hit hard by the Seoul ferry disaster. The central bank also attributed the uptick to a general trend in which a rebound takes place after 3 straight months of decline, rather than a sign that the economy is on a solid recovery track. It added that the index has never fallen for 3 or 4 months in a row except for cases when there was a major shock in the domestic economy. Still, a reading above 100 means optimists outnumber pessimists. While the monthly index that reflects the overall economic outlook of consumers fails to strengthen signs of recovery, this year's forecast among local exporters does not look so bright either. A survey conducted by the Korea Trade Investment Promotion Agency on around 900 exporters shows that more than a third of them are skeptical about economic conditions this year. Less than a quarter said they felt positive, while the rest said the conditions should be manageable. Hwang Ji, ARIRANG News.
It's getting harder for people to move up the income ladder here in Korea. A recent study shows that the poor are staying poor, while the rich are staying rich. As to why this is the way it is, our Kim Ji-yoon tells us more.
It's getting more difficult to climb up the socio-economic ladder in Korea, particularly for those living under the poverty line. A study by the Korea Institute for Health and Social Affairs shows that a mere 23% of them escaped poverty in 2014. That's the lowest rate of escape since the first study in 2006. The percentage of people who went straight from the lowest income bracket to the highest without spending time in the middle class increased by a mere 0.3%, an eighth of that recorded 8 years ago. The study also says the rich are likely to stay rich. More than 77% of those in the high income bracket in 2013 remain in the same income bracket in 2014. On the other end of the scale, the number of people who filed for bankruptcy and signed up for debt workout plans hit a record high of 110,000 last year, a near 5% increase from a year ago. The study blames labor immobility for the lack of movement across the socio-economic ladder. 83% of those with temporary positions in 2013 said they were unable to find a full-time job in 2014. Nearly 93% of those with full-time jobs kept their positions during the same period. Kim Jong-un, ARIRANG News.
And despite public criticisms over the government's structural reforms, the government must carry out those reforms to create a better country for future generations. This comment comes from Korean Finance Minister Choi Kyung-hwan, who met with some 20 university students on Monday. There, the minister promised to reduce the nation's youth unemployment rate. He also said that the government is pushing ahead with reforms so that it could provide young people with more high-quality jobs. Addressing concerns of female students about continuing on with their career after getting married and having a child, the minister said the government will ease regulations and provide more tax benefits to make a better environment for working moms. Korean battery and chemical materials maker Samsung SDI plans to pump more money into its business this year. In its fourth quarter performance announcement on Monday, Samsung SDI said that it invested some $440 million last year, and it's going to significantly bolster investment, particularly on polymer batteries this year. These batteries are mainly used in vehicles, laptops, and smartphones. The leading battery maker raked in some $1.75 billion during the fourth quarter, with operating profit of some $37 million and a net loss of about $120 million. While on-quarter revenue and operating profit slightly increased, the net loss was mainly due to last year's merger with an affiliate. Global oil prices have been falling dramatically over the last few months, but drivers here in Korea aren't enjoying most of the benefits. Our Kim Min-ji reports why Korean prices at the pump are still lofty.
Global crude prices have been on a downward spiral in recent months. However, gasoline prices in Korea haven't been falling as quickly as local drivers would have liked. Dubai crude, which accounts for nearly 90% of Korea's oil imports, traded at $93 a barrel during the first week of October last year, but has since plunged over 50% to $45. However, at the pump, the average price of a liter of gasoline fell from about $1.70 to about $1.30 over the same period. This is only a fall of 18%. Why the big difference? Industry officials point to a string of taxes levied on oil consumption. Ex-factory prices of gasoline have indeed fallen in line with global crude prices, but consumers in Korea face transportation, road, and education taxes totaling some 70 cents per liter, plus a 10% oil consumption tax. With the taxes largely fixed, their proportion in consumer gas prices has surged. The tax currently makes up over 60% of gasoline prices, up from 54% 3 months ago. But consumers aren't the only ones dissatisfied. Gas stations are also battling it out for customers and are doing all they can to slash prices, even if it is just by a solitary cent. Kim Min-ji, ARIRANG News.
Apology or no apology? For Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, it might be the latter. He has hinted that he might not include key phrases of remorse or apology over Japan's wartime atrocities in his statement to mark the 70th anniversary of Japan's defeat in World War II. Korea is keeping a sharp eye on what Abe will end up saying in August. Our Park Ji-won has the story.
Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has suggested he may not include key expressions used by previous administrations to show remorse over Japan's wartime wrongdoings. Abe is set to release a statement in August, marking the 70th anniversary of the end of World War II. In a televised interview, he said, "It's not about whether we use expressions that have been repeated in the past." Although he plans on inheriting the spirit of previously issued statements, he added that he wants to put out a statement that represents his administration's stance on the 70th anniversary. The Korean government expressed concerns on Monday. Seoul's foreign ministry said if Abe is sincere about upholding the spirit of previous apologies, his new statement should include expressions that could heal and improve relations with neighboring countries. Abe's stance has also garnered criticism in Tokyo. The leader of Japan's main opposition Democratic Party, Katsuya Okada, among others, called his remarks intolerable, saying it will deny the peaceful path that Japan has taken over the past 7 decades. In a statement in 1995, then Prime Minister Tomichi Murayama expressed deep apology over his country's colonial aggression, which caused tremendous suffering, to mark the 50th anniversary of Japan's defeat. And in 2005, then Prime Minister Junichiro Koizumi used similar key expressions in his statement on the 60th anniversary of the end of World War II. Park Ji-won, ARIRANG News.
Meanwhile, the Japanese government is coordinating efforts with other countries to save Kenji Goto, a Japanese held captive by the Islamic State militants. Tokyo says although it hasn't made direct contact with the militants yet, it's working with Jordan after the group changed its ransom demand to a prisoner swap. And the latest video posted by the IS, a man's voice assumed to be Goto's, reads a statement saying that he would be freed if an Iraqi woman imprisoned in Jordan is released. Japan's deputy foreign minister, who was sent to Jordan to take care of this matter, promised to not give up until they save Mr. Goto. Over in Athens, with the new anti-austerity prime minister now leading Greece, the country faces a daunting task of how it's going to renegotiate the country's massive bailout loans. And as the European Union comes down on Greece, there's the question of whether the differences will eventually push the country out of the Eurozone. Our Shin Se-min has the details.
With radical leftist Alexis Tsipras sworn in as Greece's new prime minister on Monday, the debt-crippled nation is demanding its debt be cut as part of a plan to renegotiate the bailout package. Tsipras is calling for forgiveness of nearly a third of the country's more than $300 billion debt. But the nations in the Eurozone and international creditors showed no sign of giving in to the demand. The new Greek leader's stance directly goes against Germany's Chancellor Angela Merkel, a chief advocate of the austerity program. A spokesman from the German government urged Greece to fulfill its commitments to its European creditors, a sentiment that was backed up by the group of Eurozone finance ministers. Echoing the sentiment, the Eurogroup chair said Eurozone financial leaders are ready to work things out with Greece, but that there is very little support for a write-off in Europe, and Eurogroup members should abide by the rules and commitments.
So there is still a major work to be done in which we will support the Greek government on the basis of true cooperation and commitment. That's the basis on which we will work.
Still, there are concerns that the so-called Grexit, or a Greek exit from the Eurozone, could become a reality in the coming months. Responding to such worries, French President François Hollande said Greece must stay in the Eurozone and respect its financial responsibility by keeping its debt repayment promises. Shin Se-min, ARIRANG News.
Over in Ukraine, its government has issued a state of emergency of its own on the country's eastern areas, partially controlled by pro-Russian rebels. The country's prime minister ordered the regions of Donetsk and Luhansk on Monday to be on high alert amid the escalating conflict. This as NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg dismissed an earlier claim by Russian President Vladimir Putin that NATO forces were fighting alongside Kiev's troops. He called the allegations nonsense, saying the foreign forces in Ukraine were Russian. Travel bans are in place in much of America's Northeast as a monster blizzard described as crippling and potentially historic begins to wreak havoc. Winter storm Juno is expected to pack hurricane-speed winds and dump up to 90 centimeters of snow, with its strongest punch to be felt Monday night through Tuesday. Ahead of it, a state of emergency was declared in the states of New York, New Jersey, and Rhode Island, Connecticut, and Massachusetts, as thousands of flights were grounded in and out of the region's major airports. School is canceled for Tuesday and public transit set to be shut down in New York City in less than an hour, as all non-emergency vehicles are banned from all roads. And this just came in. Prosecutors have confirmed the Olympic gold medalist swimmer Park Tae-won has tested positive for the male hormone testosterone, which is on a list of banned substances. Park's management team says Park received an injection for a knee injury and did not know the substance was in the concoction. Park's doctors also said that they didn't know the shot contained the banned substance. The prosecution is considering whether to also indict the hospital and doctors for unintentional infliction of injury. Walt Disney's latest animated movie, Big Hero 6, is drawing a lot of attention around the world for its quirky yet heartwarming story. And last week, the movie was released right here in Korea, and we hear that this movie has an interesting connection to Korea. With more, here's our Sun Jung-in.
Strong, agile, smart, and cute. This is Gogo, a female character in Disney's latest film, Big Hero. She's the first animated character inspired by a Korean actress to hit the mainstream. Her creator is Kim Sang-jin, the first Korean to become a top designer at Walt Disney Studios, who also designed Elsa from Disney's 2013 award-winning film, Frozen.
Gogo is, I think she's the only one character who can take care of herself without anybody's help.
When creating Gogo, Kim and his team originally thought of South Korean actress Bae Do-na and her courageous character in the movie The Host, and then incorporated independent and athletic traits from Korean short track skaters.
It was overall a very hard work. Teamwork also played a big part in the project.
Baymax, the main character's lovable companion, has a balloon-like face with eyes connected by a thin line that evokes the image of a moktak, a wooden percussion instrument often used by Buddhist monks. Korean-American actress Jamie Chung and actor Daniel Henney also participated in the film as voice actors.
It's a movie with a huge Disney heart, a lot of action, and some amazing messages that I think apply very well to what's going on in our society today.
The animated adventure of a young robotic genius and his superhero team has warmed the hearts of moviegoers around the world and also aims to top the box office in Korea. Sun Jung-in, ARIRANG News.
Welcome back. I'm Michelle Park here with the latest weather forecast. A sudden cold front has brought chillier weather upon us, and the morning low dropped below freezing today, and we are expecting highs just above 0 degrees here in Seoul, and the wind chill factor is much higher, so make sure to bundle up. And we have mostly clear skies today with just the light layers of clouds drifting by here and there, which won't have any effect on bringing out the sun today. Now, meanwhile, it's a totally different story for the people on the East Coast regions, and the coastal areas of Gwangju have a heavy snow alert in effect, and they are expecting up to 30 centimeters of snow. Gyeongsang-bukdo is expecting a bit less, but still a heavy snowfall of between 1 to 20 centimeters expected, while the rest of the country can just expect 1 to 5. So please be careful out there. Now to our readings for today. So we'll peak up to 1 this afternoon. Meanwhile, the southern cities such as Gwangju and Busan will top to 5 and 9 degrees. Moving over to other regions such as Jeju Island gets up high at 7, Dokdo heads down to 1, while Mankungang drops to the freezing to -7 degrees. Well, that's all for now, Michelle Park, and here's a look at the weather conditions around the world.
All right, that's all for now, but stay tuned because I'll be back with Daniel with more at 6 p.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching and stay warm.